Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Fiona G. A phone call of more than 2 hours. President Donald Trump gives an update on Truth Social about his conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin about the ceasefire negotiations in the Russia-Ukraine war. What's the treatment for stage 4 prostate cancer, and can a person fully recover from it? We have a prostate cancer specialist's comments on former President Biden's cancer diagnosis. FBI Director Kash Patel confirms yesterday that the Bureau is looking into New York Attorney General Letitia James's real estate transactions. In a big win for House Republicans, the Budget Committee advances President Donald Trump's sweeping budget bill. 7 inmates break out of a New Orleans jail, and they're still missing. Officials say they're dangerous. What's the reward here? 10 grand each. And the UK and the EU hit reset on defense and trade ties with promises of cheaper food, stronger energy security, and economic gains.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
After a 2-hour-long call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Donald Trump says that Russia and Ukraine will immediately start negotiations towards a ceasefire. We've now got live NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. Tell us more.
Good afternoon to you as well, Fiona. So this morning, President Trump had a 2-hour-long phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. And just now, President Trump posted on Truth Social saying that the call went, quote, very well. Specifically, in President Trump's long post about the call, he mentioned 4 main outcomes of the call. One, he says that Russia and Ukraine will, quote, immediately start negotiations toward a ceasefire and, more importantly, an end to the war. And second, he says that the specific conditions when it comes to negotiations between the two parties will be done directly and discussed directly between the two countries, as nobody else knows better than the two of them themselves. And 3, President Trump says that he wants there to be increased trade between the U.S. as well as Russia and Ukraine, between both Russia and U.S. and as well as Ukraine and the U.S. after the war is ended. President Trump says that he believes that Russia has tremendous opportunities to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth, and that Russia wants to do, quote, large-scale trade with the U.S. after the war, which he agreed. And next, he says that future negotiations could be held, could be hosted by the Vatican. He says the Vatican, represented by the Pope, has expressed interest in hosting next steps talks. And President Trump says that right after the talk, he has informed both the leader of the European Commission as well as the leaders of Italy, France, Germany, Finland, immediately after calls to talk to them about this morning's progress. He's also, of course, talked to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky both before and potentially after the call to inform them of the results. And meanwhile, it also comes as President Trump is slated to participate in a bill signing event this afternoon at around 3 o'clock. So we do expect to actually hear from him in person more about this morning's crucial high-stakes talks. This call comes after Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that the U.S. is open to walking away from participating in negotiations as progress continues to not be made. And this morning, the press secretary Caroline Leavitt also told us that President Trump has expressed frustration with both parties about the lack of progress. So it all now comes to, of course, be seen if any substantial movements and progress will be made in the next days or weeks, as President Trump suggested that now the two parties will resume direct negotiations toward the end of the war. Back to you.
What's the Russian side saying about all of this?
Sure. So Russian President Vladimir Putin also came out to talk to reporters after his 2-hour-long phone call with President Trump this morning. He says that Moscow is now ready to work with Ukraine on a memorandum about a future peace accord. And those discussions will include, for example, the timing of such a possible peace agreement, as well as the principles of settlement, or what Russia has been calling what's the definition of a truce between the two countries. And Putin asked that he believes that the two countries are on a right track to achieve peace now that direct talks have resumed. And he also thanked President Trump for supporting the resumption of direct talks between Moscow and Kyiv. We know that last week in Turkey, we had hopes that Putin would show up himself for direct talks with Ukraine, but Russia ended up sending a lower-level team that ultimately did not yield very substantial direct results from that day of talks. And President Trump did not end up adding a stop to his Middle East trip either to go to Turkey himself to participate in the talks. But of course, now we know that this phone call has happened and more negotiations will resume. So now all parties seem to be engaged again. Back to you.
Iris, thank you. And moving on, President Donald Trump criticized Walmart over the weekend due to price hikes. Trump said Walmart should absorb added costs rather than passing them on to American consumers. This after the retailer said it would raise prices in response to U.S. tariff policy. President Trump said Walmart made billions of dollars last year, calling that far more than expected. He said Walmart and China should absorb the tariffs and not charge customers anything. The president said he would be watching. The United States reduced tariffs on Chinese goods from 145% to 30% for a 90-day period under a recent agreement. Walmart's chief financial officer, John David Rainey, said the lower rate is still too steep. Walmart says the company is taking steps to limit the impact on consumers. The plan here is to work with suppliers to shift sourcing, substitute materials, and adjust product mixes. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said yesterday that he is not worried about Moody's recent downgrade of the United States AAA credit rating to AA1.
By the time they get to a downgrade, everything's already in the market. Larry Summers and I don't agree on everything, but in 2011, the last time or 2 times ago when he had a downgrade, he poo-pooed it. What I think is important is that President Trump has just come back from this historic Mideast trip, and there's trillions of dollars coming into the U.S. So we are seeing confidence from investors. So I don't put much credence in the Moody's.
Moody's Ratings downgraded the United States long-term credit rating on Friday. It cited sustained rising debt, growing interest payments, and a lack of political action to rein in chronic budget deficits. The move stripped the nation of its last perfect credit rating among the 3 major agencies. Bessent said President Trump's bill, which would extend the 2017 tax cuts, would surge economic growth. Bessent also said that growing the economy faster is more important than the potential growth of the debt. Victims of explicit deepfakes will soon be able to take legal action against people who create the images. Explicit deepfakes are images in which a person's face is superimposed onto a nude body using artificial intelligence. Now, a federal law criminalizing the sharing of those images is coming. President Trump is set to sign the Take It Down Act this afternoon.
The Take It Down Act will protect victims of digital exploitation, hold internet platforms accountable by requiring them to remove such imagery from their platforms, and provide justice for victims by allowing prosecutors to go after those who publish non-consensual explicit images online.
The law will make it illegal to share online non-consensual explicit images, whether they be real or computer-generated. It'll also require tech platforms to remove such images within 48 hours of being notified about them. Previously, federal law prohibited creating or sharing realistic AI-generated explicit images of children. But laws protecting adult victims varied by state and did not exist nationwide. FBI Director Kash Patel said in an interview yesterday that the Bureau is investigating New York Attorney General Letitia James for possible mortgage fraud. Patel told Fox News on Sunday that his department is not prejudging this case or any others based on party affiliation. Earlier this month, the Albany, New York division of the Justice Department announced that a criminal fraud probe of Attorney General Letitia James had begun and that Albany's FBI field office was collaborating with the DOJ to conduct the investigation. The investigation is focused on whether James committed fraud on a mortgage application in Virginia. CNN reports that a grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia has issued subpoenas on the matter. A big win for House Republicans. Late last night, the Budget Committee advanced President Donald Trump's sweeping budget bill. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
The House Budget Committee took a critical step to passing the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and making President Trump's America First vision a reality for the American people.
The bill passed in a 17-16 vote, with all Democrats voting against it.
CBO saying 13,700,000 Americans at least will lose their health care because of this bill for billionaires that was passed we will continue to fight it on our side of the aisle.
The late Sunday vote came just 3 days after 4 fiscal hawks tanked the GOP budget bill on Friday. They're concerned that the spending cuts don't take priority, pushing to speed up the Medicaid work requirements and phasing out of green energy incentives.
I am a no on this bill unless serious reforms are made today, tomorrow, Sunday. We're having conversations as we speak, but something needs to change or you're not going to get my support.
The 4 GOP opposers still aren't 100% on board with the bill. They voted present to allow it to advance to the House floor. Negotiations will continue this week.
There's a lot more work to do. We've always acknowledged that. Towards the end, there will be more details to iron out. We have several more to take care of. But I'm looking forward to very thoughtful discussions, very productive discussions over the next few days.
House Speaker Mike Johnson will continue working out tax and spending cut details in order to unite his conference ahead of a floor vote expected before the end of the month. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And turning back to that Trump-Putin phone call, following that 2-hour phone call between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, Putin has reportedly now agreed to work with Ukraine on a memorandum for a possible peace accord. For more on this, joining us now live is Gerard Filitti, a foreign affairs analyst and attorney specializing in national security law and policy and counterterrorism. Gerard, always great having you on. It's great to see you. So let's talk about this, right? We've got this 2-hour call. We hear that Putin's agreed to work with Ukraine on a memorandum for a possible peace accord. President Trump, he actually says on Truth Social that the call went very well and the tone and the spirit of the conversation was excellent. Could this be a turning point in this war?
Well, anything could be a turning point in this war. Unfortunately, I think as we've seen in the last few months and indeed the last few years, is that very little has actually moved the needle towards sustaining a long-term ceasefire, let alone a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine. Ultimately, I think President Trump will need to bring more pressure to bear on Russia, because if what we're hearing is that there will be a memorandum that's written, a memorandum is not peace, a memorandum is not a ceasefire. Negotiations are continuing as they have for a while, but even though the call was positive from all reports, we're still not that much closer to an end of hostilities.
What kind of pressure could Trump put on them now?
The biggest pressure that he could put on are renewed economic sanctions. This is something that Europe has pushed for. They had a deadline last week, which went and passed without Russia modifying its position. Europe wants to impose more sanctions. The United States could impose more sanctions. Sanctions are and have for the last few years created a stranglehold on the Russian economy. So that's a very real means to bring Putin to the table as a meaningful partner in peace and not just someone who gives messages that he's willing to sit down.
Okay, so Gerard, as these talks are continuing, as you're saying there, is there any term you can think of right now that both sides could agree to?
Well, even when it comes to a temporary ceasefire, we have seen the parties, Russia and Ukraine, not agree on what the context of a ceasefire would be. So it's very difficult to see how there's any cessation of hostilities that could result here. I think that perhaps both sides are willing to talk. That is what they agree on, but they're talking at each other instead of to each other, and not much is being accomplished. So ultimately, the one thing that the two sides do agree on is the war should end, but they're very far apart on what the contours of a peace would look like.
So we know that President Trump, he originally said during his campaign he would stop the war on day one. Of course, he later said that was an exaggeration. But he's also repeatedly highlighted here the death toll and the losses from both sides of this war. He's saying it's not American lives, but they're still human lives. How high were the stakes for President Trump during this morning's call?
I think the stakes for President Trump are very high. He has shown a personal interest in ending this needless slaughter, of bringing peace and stability to the region, not just in Russia, Ukraine, but in many parts of the world. So for him, it's personal. He doesn't want to see this needless suffering. On the other hand, he has so far accomplished more than what has been done in a number of years, because the Biden administration, we have to remember, did not engage in these direct talks with Vladimir Putin. They were not actually pushing for a meaningful dialogue between the sides. And we know from past history, know from many, many years of experience with wars, that it's not easy or quick to reach a resolution. But those need to start somewhere with talks, and Donald Trump has at least been able to do that in the first few months of his administration.
So we see on Truth Social President Trump saying it's not just Putin he talked to today. He's talked to Ukrainian President Zelensky, European Commission President von der Leyen, Emmanuel Macron, Italian Prime Minister Meloni, German Chancellor Merz, Finland's president as well. What does this tell you? What is the EU doing right now in the wake of this call?
The EU has been supportive of Ukraine and has been providing them with weapons and money to continue fighting for their survival. I think that what this call shows is that Donald Trump is communicating with our allies, which are also Ukraine's allies, in a way towards moving things forward effectively. Now, I don't expect Europe to cut any support for Ukraine. If anything, we may see it increase as a way to pressure Russia into backing down. We may even see the Trump administration authorizing more weapons transfers and more funding for Ukraine through back channels or by subsidizing European countries doing so in order to put that pressure on Russia. What's interesting also to note is that Donald Trump himself suggested that the Pope might have a role in facilitating ceasefire discussions, and that is something certainly that is worth pursuing.
Well, there was a period of time in recent months when the administration was saying it might walk away from ceasefire talks. It was getting frustrated. Is that still a possibility right now?
It is. The frustration is that if Vladimir Putin does not want to show any willingness to make any concessions, remember, you can't have a ceasefire of peace where one party gets everything it wants and the other party loses everything. So unless Vladimir Putin is willing to give some concessions, it's very possible for Donald Trump to walk away and say, we'll just let things continue. We'll just let this war go on endlessly and lead to more casualties, put the pressure on Putin, put the pressure on the Russian people to stop supporting this war. So it's very possible for Trump to walk away, but that's also a negotiation strategy. We have to remember that Trump is using all the tools at his disposal to bring this crisis to an end.
Well, obviously a lot's still going on. There's still a lot there's a lot of uncertainty there. But Gerard, are you optimistic?
Well, I'm optimistic that all wars must end. Whether that's in the near future, I'm not so optimistic, but I think that we all understand that the public of the world understands that this cannot go on forever and that there needs to be a solution to this. There needs to be a way out for both sides because too many people have died in this conflict.
Absolutely. Gerard Filitti, great having you on. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Coming up next, 7 inmates break out of a New Orleans jail and they are still missing. Officials say they're dangerous and there is a 10 grand reward for each prisoner. We'll be right back.
Kids love it. Parents trust it.
Obviously.
Explore GJW Plus Kids Series and Ganjion Campus courses led by expert educators.
This is spectacular.
Children will learn values like respect, responsibility, and knowledge in language, science, and more.
Wow.
All while having fun.
Perfect.
Subscribe today at GJW Plus Kids, where learning meets fun.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
They're just young people, hungry, homeless, and vulnerable. Abused youth often feel safer on the street. Now, more than ever, that's the most dangerous place of all. Covenant House is helping young adults facing homelessness. We're providing safe shelter to thousands, but the need is overwhelming, and no young person is ever turned away. Please call or go online now with your gift of $19 a month to help a young person. You'll provide safe shelter, hot meals, and medical care. Your gift will show them they're loved. Homeless young people are afraid and alone with nowhere else to turn.
You want to know that there's somewhere you can go that's safe. So the Covenant House did that for us.
Please call now with your gift of $19 a month. We'll send you this blanket as a reminder of the comfort your gift provides a young person tonight. Please don't wait. Your gift is the lifeline a young person needs now. Call the number on your screen or go online to safeplacetosleep.org. Thank you for saving precious lives.
Discover the ancient secret to vitality and longevity with Puretang Black Ginseng. Crafted from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng, each root is carefully nurtured for over 2,260 days, undergoing a traditional 9-round handcrafted process of steaming and drying to unlock full potency and absorption. Experience pure, natural energy with Puretang Black Ginseng. Order now at puretang.com.
Welcome back. Former President Joe Biden has been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer. His office releasing details about the diagnosis yesterday. Here's more on what we're learning.
A shocking health announcement coming from the Biden family. Former President Joe Biden diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones. His personal office releasing this statement Sunday, saying, quote, "Last week, President Joe Biden was seen for a new finding of a prostate nodule after experiencing increasing urinary symptoms. On Friday, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, characterized by a Gleason score of 9, with metastasis to the bone. While this represents a more aggressive form of the disease, the cancer appears to be hormone sensitive, which allows for effective management." The statement went on to say that the 82-year-old and his family are reviewing treatment options.
The fact that we're told that this is, metastatic now, the 5-year survival rate on average is about, 33%. So, there are some people that do well and some people that don't do well.
The American Cancer Society estimates 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime.
Because there's such a high volume, there's a lot of research dedicated to its treatment.
His former Vice President Kamala Harris posting this on X. "Joe is a fighter, and I know he will face this challenge with the same strength, resilience, and optimism that have always defined his life and leadership. We are hopeful for a full and speedy recovery."
A bipartisan group of officials shared messages in support of Biden, and Biden thanked people for their support this morning in his first comment on his cancer diagnosis. Now, this group of bipartisan officials, they shared messages of support for Biden as well as his family. President Trump also released a statement saying that he and Melania are saddened to hear about Biden's recent medical diagnosis and wish him a fast and successful recovery. In an X post today, former President Biden wrote, quote, "Cancer touches us all. Like so many of you, Jill and I have learned that we are strongest in the broken places. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support." Prostate cancer specialists say that former President Joe Biden's announcement that he has been diagnosed with this aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones means the cancer is no longer curable, but there are treatments that can control it, possibly for years.
Most prostate cancers are diagnosed at an earlier stage. That's according to Dr. Chris George, director of Northwestern Health Network's cancer program, who says the news that Biden's cancer has spread to his bones points to a later stage of the disease, but that it could still be controlled.
When the cancer has spread to the bones, that makes it stage 4. That means that the cancer is not curable. There's no treatment available that can cure the cancer. You could control it for years. 2 or 3 years is very realistic, and some lucky patients get control for 4, 5, 6, and even longer. Usually prostate cancer doesn't, go full throttle like this too often. When it does, that's usually a bad sign. That's an aggressive cancer for sure, but it does seem odd.
Biden's office says he was diagnosed on Friday after experiencing urinary symptoms. Dr. James Brombot is a urologist with the Orlando Medical Group. He says that now Biden is likely to undergo hormone therapy.
In a lot of patients that get diagnosed with metastatic prostate cancer, the treatment usually starts the day of the diagnosis. So we're trying to slow down the cancer, which can be fed by hormones or testosterone.
Biden's mental and physical health were subjects of scrutiny during his presidency. He ended his run for a second term in office after a halting TV debate performance.
Moving on, 7 dangerous inmates are still on the run after a jailbreak in New Orleans on Friday. A manhunt is underway as law enforcement agencies ramp up their search. Here's what we know so far.
Authorities have increased the reward for information on the whereabouts of 7 missing inmates who escaped from a Louisiana jail. Authorities say the escape happened at the Orleans Justice Center, which mostly holds people awaiting trial or sentencing. Early Friday morning, 10 inmates breached the wall. They went through a door used to bring in supplies, scaled the wall, and ran across the interstate. 3 inmates have been captured, but 7 are still on the run. The men, aged between 19 and 42, are facing charges including aggravated assault, domestic abuse, battery, and murder. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is offering a $5,000 reward for tips leading to their capture. That's on top of a $2,000 reward from Crime Stoppers and another $10,000 reward from the FBI for each escaped inmate. Investigators say they have active leads, including phone calls and messages from the inmates. The escape has drawn sharp criticism from state officials. Governor Jeff Landry says the jailbreak reflects deeper failures within Louisiana's criminal justice system.
This massive jailbreak, which my statistics tell me could be the largest jailbreak in the history of the state, should never have happened. And the public deserves to know who, what, and how this happened.
He has called for a full audit of the facility, with results expected by the end of the week. Orleans Parish Sheriff Susan Hudson blamed defective locks at the correctional facility. She says she's raised concern about the locks before. Hudson also said there are indications the escapees receive assistance from, quote, individuals inside our department. Authorities say the inmates should be considered armed and dangerous. Anyone with information is urged to call 911 or Crime Stoppers.
The FBI has identified the suspect in the bombing outside of a fertility clinic in Palm Springs. Authorities are treating the incident as an act of domestic terrorism. Here are those details.
The FBI has named a suspect in a bomb explosion outside a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California over the weekend. The agency said Sunday they believe the attack was intentional. Here's Assistant Director at the FBI's Los Angeles field office, Akil Davis.
We are fairly confident that that subject is Guy Edward Bartkiss, a 25-year-old from, again, Palm Springs, from, again, 29 Palms.
The blast went off in or near a car parked outside the clinic, which was operated by American Reproductive Center. The sound of the explosion was caught on this home security camera. One person was killed and at least 4 were injured in the blast. Officials said that no embryos stored inside the clinic were harmed. Davis said the FBI believes Bartkiss died in the blast. He described the suspect as having, quote, nihilistic ideations and said that he had been trying to live stream the attack. Davis added that the FBI was conducting a search at the suspect's home and that the agency did not believe there was an ongoing threat to the public. The officials said they are receiving hundreds of tips and collecting evidence, including pieces of the vehicle that exploded and were strewn several hundred feet in every direction. Davis said it is likely the largest bombing crime scene in Southern California history. Palm Springs residents on Sunday were still reeling from the attack.
It's very startling. We were sitting in our home, which is a mile from where it occurred, and it was very loud and the house shook. So that must have been one big bomb to be happening a mile away.
Who would have thought in Palm Springs, of all places, you know what I mean? But that's the world we live in, you know? It's just the way it is. We just have to accept things and pray for better outcomes and less violence, but it's like I said, it's the world that we live in.
Bartkiss was not known to the FBI prior to the incident.
New Jersey Transit's train engineers have reached a tentative deal to end their 3-day strike. The walkout halted service for about 100,000 daily riders, including routes to Newark Airport and across the Hudson River to New York City.
I am delighted to report that NJ Transit and the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, BLET, have reached a tentative agreement. And as a result, New Jersey's first rail strike in decades has officially come to an end.
The deal itself reflects a series of concessions that came together by way of a work rule that will eventually end up paying for this fair wage that the unions have asked for. And I am so pleased that
the union said its members would return to work tomorrow when trains would resume their regular schedules. The walkout that began Friday was the state's first transit strike in more than 40 years. Now, it forced people who normally rely on New Jersey Transit to take buses, cars, taxis, and boats instead of considering staying home. The main sticking point was how to accomplish a wage increase for the engineers without creating a financially disastrous domino effect for the transit agency. Top FBI officials have given an update about Jeffrey Epstein's death. FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino stated unequivocally that Epstein died by suicide in his Manhattan jail cell back in 2019. This in an interview that aired yesterday on Fox News. Bongino said he reviewed the entire case file and found no evidence of foul play. Patel, a former prosecutor and public defender, added that based on his experience in the federal prison system, it was clearly a suicide. Epstein was awaiting trial for sex trafficking of minors when he was found dead in this cell. His death sparked global speculation, but New York's chief medical examiner officially ruled it a suicide. Despite public skepticism and alternative claims by private experts, the FBI's current leadership says there is no proof to support those doubts. The Supreme Court is allowing the Trump administration to revoke temporary legal status for 350,000 Venezuelans. A federal judge in San Francisco had ordered that it continue a week before it was set to expire in March. The case is the latest in a string of emergency appeals by the Trump administration to the High Court. Last week, the government asked the justices to allow it to end temporary status for hundreds of thousands of Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. The Supreme Court has also heard arguments involving President Trump's efforts to deport suspected Venezuelan gang members under an 18th century law called the Alien Enemies Act. Temporary protected status was established as part of the Immigration Act of 1990. The program grants legal immigration status to individuals from nations impacted by armed conflict or natural disaster for up to 18 months at a time. Coming up, the UK and the EU hit reset on defense and trade ties with promises of cheaper food, stronger energy security, and economic gains. We'll be right back.
Hurry in and shop Mathis Home today during the Monumental Savings Event for deals in every department. Get huge discounts on hundreds of sofas in all the latest styles. Come and see the latest looks in bedrooms and dining rooms at the lowest prices ever. You can get it all in stock with fast and free delivery. Even an incredible selection of patio and outdoor furniture so you can enjoy every part of your home. For the best service, selection, and value, don't miss out on the Monumental Savings Event at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
I had a pretty normal mom life. Everything was pretty good, and it was a very happy life.
And we just had a new baby. And then all of a sudden, within a day or two, she's on life support and fighting for her life.
And I knew something was pretty wrong. A little less than a week after I came home, I couldn't breathe. That's when we decided to go to the hospital. I was given the diagnosis that I had peripartum cardiomyopathy, which is basically a pregnancy-induced heart failure. They told me my only chance was a heart transplant.
And the American Heart Association helped make that possible. Their research helped save me.
This could not happen without monthly donations from friends like you. Your sustained support helps fund life-saving research that leads to medical breakthroughs, like those that gave Jen a second chance at life. Heart disease is the #1 killer in America, and we urgently need your help to save lives. Go to helpheart.org or call now to become a monthly donor today. Your donation of only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, will make a difference through prevention, early detection, treatments, and cures that help save lives.
I am very thankful for the American Heart Association. I'm grateful for just every day that I get with my children.
Please go to helpheart.org or call now with your donation of just $19 a month. Join our community of monthly donors, and you'll get this limited edition t-shirt you could wear to show you're helping save lives.
One simple act today can save your life or the life of a loved one.
Please call or go online to helpheart.org. Become a monthly donor, and for a limited time only, your first month's gift will be matched.
Ethan was shot in the head in his best friend's house with an unsecured gun. The father, the gun owner, he stored his 3 guns and bullets in a shoebox. That has to be the most horrific experience that a human could ever have.
Welcome back. One of the big talking points of President Trump's tour of the Middle East is artificial intelligence. Specifically here, the U.S. allowing Saudi Arabia and the UAE to dramatically ramp up their AI capabilities by using advanced American technology. Now, back in January, the Biden administration tried to limit these countries from access to the semiconductors needed for these AI data centers. The fear here was that adversaries like China would be able to get their hands on the computer chips. But now Saudi Arabia and the UAE will partner with U.S. companies to build massive data centers in their own countries. We're going to bring on now to discuss these potential risks and reward retired Colonel John Mills. He is a senior fellow with the Center for Security Policy and former director of cybersecurity policy at the Department of Defense. Colonel, always great to have you on. So let me start by asking you this, right? Is this a chance to bring these countries closer to the U.S. and further away from China, as President Trump has suggested?
Well, thank you, Fiona. Well, yes, I find Senator Chuck Schumer is suddenly concerned about this. I find it very odd. He was one of the biggest champions of the CHIPS Act. And so, I mean, if there's export control concerns, and that's always not an unreasonable issue, well, you just apply appropriate security controls to the export control environment to make sure that the chips are secure, and you have tiers of chips, different types of chips, with the best of the best being allowed only to the most trusted. But then you have tiers of capability of the different chips. So I think we want to work closely with Saudi Arabia and UAE, and I think we just need to figure out the export control regime to use in this situation. But I just find it odd, Senator Schumer's sudden cold feet on this topic.
Well, to your point, Colonel, of these export controls, I mean, we know the Chinese Communist Party, it has this well-documented history of exploiting these sort of trade and investment agreements to gain influence on the world stage. It's how it pretty much carries out much of its foreign policy agenda. How big is the risk here that they could target this U.S.-Middle East AI partnership?
Well, I think there's reasonable concern in any of these scenarios. I think, though, we have to make our export control regime more agile and adapting, because the problem is with our export control regime is there it's very slow and plodding, and just the answer is no to everything, which in the end actually drives away foreign partners because it's just too difficult to deal with the American export control environment. This has been pointed out over and over again. Just saying no and locking the doors, eventually either the bad people figure out ways to get around the controls, and China is very good at that, or B, other partner nations just become fatigued and just lose interest in working with America. Just locking the door and saying no to everything is not a great long-term strategy. It's a very bad long-term strategy.
Well, then what would this flexibility that you're talking about look like in practice?
Well, we always have to have tiers of offerings. In older days, for military exports, we used to have different levels of offerings of aircraft, let's say. Now we have the F-35. That's it. Take it or leave it. Well, not every country needs an F-35 or a fully kitted out F-35. So we have to be adapting to the marketplace also. Just an absolute moat-like behavior on export control just eventually drives partners away. So give tiered offerings, have agile monitoring to make sure these controls really are working and are not being circumvented. And we just have to really work these in. The export control regime and compliance monitoring, it has to be taken security, but it also the strategic end state of partners. And if we're driving away partners, that's still accomplishing the enemy's goal.
So looking at this more broadly, not just at the Middle East here, Colonel, why are these data centers and this artificial intelligence more broadly such an important piece in the national security concern?
Well, I mean, AI needs data. Data needs data centers. Data centers need chips. It's and a high performing chip down to the 2 nanometer and better state of the art chips. So AI needs endless data to create the to feed the AI algorithms and the AI engines. So the more data, the better. That means data centers and Northern Virginia, just where I'm at right now, this is essentially the hub of worldwide processing. Something like 70% of the data in the world flows right through Northern Virginia, and we are becoming inundated with data centers. Now the data centers, we're gonna have to get better and better about these. We don't have endless real estate to build these data centers. And oh, by the way, data centers need a lot of cooling. Last time I checked, Saudi Arabia and UAE are pretty hot countries, not the best places to put data centers.
So it would seem that what President Trump is doing right now in terms of AI and data centers, it's really on par with what we've seen him do with all other sectors of whether it be the economy or national security, or, it's really a revamp, turning the status quo almost on its head a little.
Yeah, and we want to, again, the end state of our innovation and our products is to build trusted partners and cater to trusted partners. And again, we do have a kind of a tiered system of the closest of the closest. And again, it also depends on needs. Not everybody needs that F-35 of a data center. I'm just using that as an analogy. We need to have correct offerings for the correct partners. But that's the problem. Over the years, we went away where the United States used to have a full menu of offerings to right size to for the partner in question. And just for a variety of reasons, we are we have one offering per market sector. That's it. That is not good. We have to have multiple offerings so the right product can fit the right partner.
So before we go here, just looking at this Middle East trip more broadly, what do you take away from President Trump's trip? What's the impact on foreign affairs from here on out?
Well, it was a tour de force of leadership, and the target audience was really Iran, but also Iran's boss, China. China just can't compete with this. I'm sorry, President Xi is not exactly a dynamic figure that inspires confidence. I mean, it's really through extortion and negative compelling of partners. So America provides leadership. We provide innovation. It's very simple. Who do countries want to partner with, America or China? And then with the leadership of Donald J. Trump, we're seeing most countries really want to align with America. I mean, you get some of the elites, you get some of the legacy old European countries that get all a flutter about Donald J. Trump. In the end, they really still want to work with Donald J. Trump versus China.
Well, I don't blame them. Retired Colonel John Mills, great having you on as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona.
Moving on, Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Pope Leo. The U.S. leaders met the new leader of the Catholic Church at the Vatican just this morning.
We're thrilled to join the first papal mass with first American Pope, Pope Leo XIV. He and I had a very good conversation with Secretary Rubio this morning. We talked about a number of diplomatic issues, and I think the Vatican, in particular the Pope, is going to be a great advocate of world peace, and obviously I serve a president I think is a great advocate of world peace, and so we're going to find some very important things to work together on.
Vice President Vance extended an invitation from President Trump and the First Lady, inviting Pope Leo to visit the U.S. Ahead of the trip, Rubio said he would discuss the Ukraine-Russia conflict with the Pope, who was the first ever American pontiff. He led his inaugural Mass on Sunday. Delegates from all over the world were in attendance, including Vance and his wife, Second Lady Usha Vance, as well as Secretary Rubio. Ukraine's President Zelensky was also there. He met with Vance and Rubio Sunday afternoon. Now, according to Vance's office, the leaders discussed their shared goal of ending the conflict with Russia and the current state of negotiations for a ceasefire. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today that Israel will control all of Gaza. He says Israel will also prevent Hamas from looting aid using a new method.
The method is distribution points that are secured by the IDF, preventing Hamas's access and allowing American companies to distribute the food and medicine aid to the population. It takes time. We're going to set up the first points in a few days and add them later, eventually reaching a situation where we have an area that is entirely controlled by the IDF, and the entire civilian population of Gaza can get there and receive the aid, and Hamas receives nothing.
Netanyahu's video post on Telegram came after Israel said it will ease its blockade and let limited amounts of food into Gaza. The military recently announced it had begun extensive ground operations in the northern and southern parts of the enclave. Palestinian media said 50 trucks carrying flour, cooking oil, and legumes would be allowed into the small coastal territory later today. Meanwhile, Israeli media said 9 trucks with baby food were also expected to enter Gaza today. The UK agreed to the most significant reset of defense and trade ties with the European Union since Brexit today. Here's the reaction from British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
We are agreeing a new strategic partnership fit for our times, providing real tangible benefits on security, irregular migration, energy prices, agri-food, trade and more, bringing down bills, creating jobs and protecting our borders.
Britain will now take part in joint procurement projects with the EU nearly 9 years after it voted to leave the bloc. The sides also agreed to make it easier for UK food and visitors to reach the EU and signed a new fishing deal. The government said the reset with its biggest trading partner would reduce red tape for food and agricultural producers, making food cheaper. It also said energy security would be improved and more than £12 billion would be added to the economy by 2040. It is the third deal that Britain has struck this month, alongside agreements with India and the U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will attend the Group of 7 finance leaders meeting in Canada. A department spokesperson said his visit will seek to refocus the group on addressing trade imbalances and non-market economic practices. Bessent will join fellow G7 finance ministers and central bank governors in Alberta. Bessent has consistently pointed to China's state-driven, non-market economic policies and subsidies. The secretary argues that Beijing's model fuels massive excess manufacturing capacity that threatens jobs, companies, and economies worldwide. A Treasury spokesperson said Bessent and his G7 counterparts will also discuss ways to generate more private sector-led growth. The G7 includes Canada, the United States, Japan, Germany, France, Britain, and Italy. Up next, residents from upstate New York share a memorable evening with some candlelit classical music as part of a fundraising event to give back to the community. We'll be right back.
Supermodel Cindy Crawford doesn't just walk the red carpet, she rocks it. At 58, she steals the show and wows the press. Hollywood Life exclaims, Cindy Crawford has never lost her stunning glow. While Page 6 raves, she's still as gorgeous as ever. What is Cindy's secret? It's meaningful beauty. And now with new advanced formulas, it's better than ever. Watch as the appearance of lines and wrinkles are diminished in just weeks. It's no wonder everyone's talking about meaningful beauty.
My makeup artist said, your skin has been looking great lately. What products are you using? And I said, I'm using Meaningful Beauty. And she said, really? I've tried Meaningful Beauty before. I love those products. And then the other lady down in the trailer said, I use Meaningful Beauty. I love it.
Our new and improved formulas deliver age-defying ingredients even deeper into the skin where wrinkles begin. And this brand new offer is Cindy's most exciting ever. Because when you order, you'll get Cindy's exclusive Super Brightening Duo, a $120 value absolutely free. First, you'll get 60 of our Revive and Brighten eye masks, the celebrity secret that visibly smooths, awakens, and restores the area around your eyes. Next, discover the power of our Vitamin C Biphase Brightening Oil for an immediate boost of glamour and glow.
I'm not ashamed to say I am 53 years old. Thank you, Cindy.
The total effect of this free gift package? A red carpet ready complexion. Get all this, a $300 value for just $49.95. But you must act quickly. Results guaranteed or your money back.
So make the call or go online now and put yourself on the path to the most beautiful skin of your life. Trust me, it's worth it.
This special offer is not available anywhere else, so don't delay. Scan the code, go to meaningfulbeauty.com, or call the number on your screen now.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, MyPillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Welcome back to Newsroom. More than 24 people are dead after tornadoes swept through parts of the Midwest and South on Friday. And more bad weather could be on the way. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the details as residents try to pick up the pieces and brace for more storms.
Kentucky was hardest hit as a devastating tornado damaged hundreds of homes, tossed vehicles about, and left many homeless. At least 19 people were killed, most of them in southeastern Laurel County. Edwina Wilson and her husband took cover in a hallway as a tornado barreled toward their home in London, Kentucky.
The house started shaking and the loud roaring happened, and we just fell right there in the hallway.
Despite losing her home, Wilson is grateful she and her husband emerged from the wreckage largely unscathed.
All of this is stuff and it looks really, really bad, but we are not like a lot of our neighbors and loved ones here that are in hospitals and their families are at the funeral homes and stuff.
Ryan Van Nostrand huddled with his brother's dogs in a closet as a tornado roared overhead.
I'd never really felt that kind of power from, you know, just nature. And so I was in there, I was just kind of thinking, you know, it's either going to take me or, you know, it's all going to be all right.
In St. Louis, 5 people died and 38 were injured as the storm system swept through on Friday. More than 5,000 homes in the city were affected. This resident's 3-story home was flattened.
I saw our life work. I saw our retirement.
The roof of Judy Simmons' home in St. Louis was ripped off.
Nobody was injured. That's the main thing. We're not hurt. We lost things. Things can be replaced, but we're here. So we're just trying to pull it together and get it back strong.
We're in the tornado! Oh!
A tornado that started in the St. Louis suburb of Clayton, traveled at least 8 miles, had 150-mile-per-hour winds, and a maximum width of 1 mile. In Scott County, a tornado killed 2 people, injured several others, and destroyed multiple homes. The weather system spawned tornadoes in Wisconsin and temporarily enveloped parts of Illinois, including Chicago, in a pall of dust. 2 people were killed in the Virginia suburbs of Washington, D.C. by falling trees while driving. In Colorado, dramatic footage caught by an eyewitness on Sunday showed a tornado sweep through the town of Bennett, leaving a trail of destruction at a solar farm and surrounding properties. Residents are scrambling to pluck valuables from the debris, with the threat of more severe storms to come. Meteorologists say a fresh multi-day mix of dangerous weather conditions is expected to impact millions across the plains, South and Midwest, with threats persisting through at least the middle of the week. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Now, have you ever been to a classical music concert in a candlelit department store? Because residents from Middletown in upstate New York sure did. They enjoyed a very unique experience while supporting a local nonprofit. Take a look.
warm flickering candles and classical music. On Saturday night, the new Middletown department store in upstate New York transformed into a musical sanctuary where local residents shared a memorable evening together. A group of talented young musicians performed a selection of well-known classical pieces, including an adapted version of Bach's Ave Maria, Beethoven's Violin Sonata No. 5, Spring, and Mozart's Ein kleine Nacht music.
It's a performance for the community. It's good that everybody's out here. It's a good turnout. Everybody loved the music. We loved playing for them. And yeah, it was all around just really positive.
These events are coming up more and more around here, and with such a beautiful place like this, yeah, it just felt like the community came together for a nice evening.
I just loved it, and my daughter was playing, so I was really happy to be here, and I really loved the store.
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. Bravo to everyone that did the job tonight. You know, couldn't think of a better evening for Middletown tonight.
Proceeds from the concert were donated to the local nonprofit Goshen Generosity Challenge. It's a local nonprofit that encourages $5 donations to assist those in need anonymously. The initiative has raised more than $100,000 in the past decade. Wendy Bynum-Wade, editor-in-chief of the Goshen Independent, has actively promoted the $5 challenge alongside the classical music concert in her newspaper.
It's beautiful music. I love all music, and our readers love music, and they love the $5 challenge. And it's a good way to get the word out about New Middletown.
We wanted to help revitalize Middletown, hence we called it New Middletown. And we bought a lot of products here, international products, products from Italy, from France, from Europe, from Asia, everywhere. And so we thought, hey, after a year and a half, how can we continue helping the community? Thought, hey, we did some events, so we started doing events.
The concert took place in the New Middletown department store, a recently established local landmark.
Many of our readers still think of this building as Tompkins, and this staircase as the way to see Santa Claus. So it's a nice tie-in to let people know that's what this store is about. It's, it's a rebirth of an icon.
The candlelight concert was nearly sold out. Organizers promised more events in the future to continue revitalizing the community.
Coming up, President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will soon attend a bill signing ceremony for the Take It Down Act in the Rose Garden at the White House. Stay with us.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week, still couldn't pay the bills. Skip meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
My dad was a farmer, and when I saw him on a horse, the guy was bigger than life. One of the things that he had a hard time doing was showing the emotion. Maybe it was because the way he was raised, or believing that men provide and they don't struggle. But we all struggle. I want to show emotion to my kids I want them to know when I'm happy, I want them to know when I'm sad, and I want them to see me working through things. The biggest reward I get from being a dad is watching my kids accomplish a goal, watching them light up. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face. So I make my kids a priority. Whether it's hitting a baseball, a dance rehearsal, you name it, I'm there.